time for a break. Grab a coffee, get comfy, and catch up with old friends. Join us for an easy chat on all the biggest news stories of the day on ICRT Breakdown, a bilingual 2030 policy program brought to you in cooperation with the National Development Council.
Hey everybody, welcome again to ICRT's Breakdown. Come and join us for some very fun and interesting conversation and learn some very useful English at the same time. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Tim Berge, and joining me as always is the very wonderful...
Paz Bueno. Hey everyone.
Hey, Paz. And Paz, I think you mentioned to me already that we have a very special guest today talking about something very timely with... issues concerning what again?
Of course, issues concerning girls.
Ooh.
So October 11th is coming up, and October 11th marks the United Nations International Day of the Girl and our own Taiwan Girls' Day. So for today, we've invited a very special guest from the Garden of Hope Foundation. The Garden of Hope is an organization that was established in order to fight against sexual violence, teen pregnancies, to provide single-parent support, and to advocate for women's and youth's rights here in Taiwan. So joining us today is the Garden of Hope Foundation's International Affairs Supervisor, Ingrid. Ingrid, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ingrid. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. And maybe, Ingrid, we could start the conversation. You could tell us a little bit about what the Garden of Hope is, what you do, and what you're doing to make Taiwan a better place.
The Garden of Foundation has quite a long history. It was established in 1988, initially to rescue girls caught up in the sex industry. And now it has expanded itself with service all over Taiwan with around 50 service points. And our vision is basically a world free from gender-based violence. So it's devoted to preventing and eliminating gender-based violence and co-creating a gender-friendly society. Our main clients are those who suffer from gender-based violence, especially domestic violence, sexual assault, and sexual exploitation. And as the society evolves, now we also serve gender-diverse people and migrant workers. And what we do is to provide them with a one-stop service from like the emergency assistance. We accompany them to the hospital or to the police station. And then we help them to gain legal assistance when they need it. And we provide diverse options of housings, like from emergency shelters to mid to long-term shelters, like independent dormitory, and then the social housing. Every year, we serve around 20,000 clients, those women and young people to escape violence and rebuild their lives. We believe that advocacy should go hand in hand with service. So we, together with other like-minded organizations in Taiwan, we advocate for a sound legal structure in gender. And we do public education, the comprehensive sex and gender education. We also do international affairs. We make global efforts to also collaborate with like-minded partners around the world to create a world free from gender-based violence. 励馨基金会我们是在1988年成立的。那从一开始一个小小的中途之家在拯救雏妓，现在我们在全台湾已经是最大的妇女组织，大约有50个据点。那我们所服务的对象最主要就是遭受到家暴、性侵、性剥削等等性别暴力的受害者，所以我们每一年大约会服务2万名妇女以及青年小孩脱离暴力。那我们也做倡议的工作，我们和许多的妇女团体或者是有相同的目标的团体，我们向政府倡议，就是希望有一个非常健全的法治的社会，可以来保护这一些妇女的权益。性别教育也是很重要的一环，所以我们发展不同的性别教育的教材，就是希望针对不同的年龄层都能理解到性别平权的重要。
Wow, that is quite an introduction.
Yes.
And I am quite amazed at everything you guys do.
Yeah.
And I would like to add that over the years, actually, the Garden of Hope and ICRT have done a lot together.
Oh.
Some of the stuff is maybe before Paz even came here. So this is maybe news to you too, but like in 2019, Garden of Hope organized the 4th World Conference on Women's Shelters. That was held down in Kaohsiung. And ICRT helped to promote, and we were involved in that event. And that kind of just shows the commitment that the Garden of Hope has towards helping women who are in distress and their families.
Yeah.
And also then, I know at that same time you invited Eve Ensler to Taiwan. She's the author of the Vagina Monologues, which is a very interesting performance with different women telling different stories concerning their sex, how they view themselves, and maybe even violence that they've encountered in life. And then before that, they also had like a V-Men charity run where they were encouraging men to take a more proactive role in stopping violence against women. And that was a run here in Taipei. So I can attest to the fact that this is an amazing organization which has done a lot, and we should be very happy to have them join us here today.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're honored. We mentioned earlier that because October 11th is coming up and it marks the United Nations International Day of the Girl and also marks Taiwan's Girls' Day. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the organization or how the foundation kind of views this day, or why did Taiwan decide to mark this day as Taiwan's Girls' Day?
Like I firstly mentioned, it has a long history. So back in 1980s, since its inception, our main goal is to rescue the child prostitutes. And the more girls that we rescue, we've found that the girls that we rescue kept coming back. And we realized we couldn't rely on one shelter to rescue them all. The root cause should be the mindset of the whole society, because the society saw the girls' values by their appearance and bodies. So we must make the society know that their values rely on their rights. Girls' rights are human rights. And that's why we started to advocate to the government and society about protecting girls' rights. And at that time, when Taiwan society was relatively conservative, we held a lot of large and high-profile events that galvanized the public. Like one of them was a marathon, and we run around the red light district of Taipei 6 times. And then that one really successfully raised awareness, the public awareness to protect girls' rights. And then in 1999, Ms. Wang Yuehao, now the CEO of the Garden Hope Foundation, she had the chance to attend the Commission of the Status of Women, so-called CSW. It's the largest women's convening in the world held by UN Women to promote women's rights. And at that time, she found that so many young girls who came from the Western countries, they held their own events in CSW to talk to the world and communicate to the world about their own rights. And then she realized that the importance of empowering girls, not just protecting them. We should let the girls know their own rights since their childhood and have the opportunity to get the gender empowerment and have the platform to speak for themselves. Then in year 2000, the Garden Foundation declared the girls' rights. It's a report about Taiwan's girls' rights situation. And we started to advocate it to Taiwan government about Taiwan Girls' Day to empower girls, not to just protect them. And it was actually 11 years before the United Nations officially declared International Child's Day.
I was under the impression that the United Nations nomination of the day came first, and then Taiwan's, came on later on, kind of like since the UN celebrated, we're also going to designate this date. But it's actually not that way. The Taiwan Girls' Day came first before the United Nations.
No, I think your understanding is right. Okay. Because in 2013, after United Nations declared the International Girls' Day, and then after that, the Taiwan government finally set up Taiwan Girls' Day as well. And it's also on October 11th.
Okay.
Is there any reason why it's on October 11th and not another day? Is there some historical element to that, or?
I'm not that sure about
Okay.
why United Nations said it. Choose that day.
Yes. Okay. So Taiwan ended up choosing this day because the United Nations has this day designated. So they also decided to make it a day that we observe here in Taiwan as well.
Right. 关于在励馨倡议女孩的权利的部分呢，一开始我们是想要帮助这一些被贩卖到性产业的女孩们，但我们发现我们一直在下游街，就是用庇护所来保护他们却没有用，因为他们在离开了庇护所之后呢，很容易因为没有地方去，那又回到了性产业，那又再次被我们拯救到庇护所里面。所以我们开始发现到其实根源的问题并不是励馨所能解决的，它是一个整个社会的价值观，就是把女孩看成商品。我们必须要跟政府跟社会倡议的是说，女孩并不是可以贩卖的商品，她们也是人，那她们也有人权。所以在当时我们就举办了很多大型的活动去跟社会对话，那去告诉社会说女孩是有她的价值在的，就是生而为人。那在1999年的时候，我们现在的执行长王月豪，他有机会去参加CSW， 那他也发现到许多欧美的年轻女孩也在 CSW 里面参加并举办他们自己的会议，提出自己的观点，然后捍卫自己的权利。所以他发现到其实不只是社会要保护这一些女孩，其实女孩自己应该要被培力，然后发现自己的潜力，那也有能力去保护自己。所以在2000年的时候，励馨就发表了少女权利红皮书，然后开始跟政府倡议台湾女孩日。那这其实是在联合国正式的宣布国际女童日的11年前，励馨就开始做这一件事了。
And as you've already mentioned, the Garden of Hope is very active in the international space and is working to promote women's rights in other areas. As I mentioned before, a few years ago, you sponsored the World Conference of Women's Shelters here in Taiwan, which is the first time that was held in Asia. So what more are you doing in the international arena to promote women's empowerment and maybe also share the lessons you've learned here in Taiwan with other communities?
So the Garden Hole Foundation actively participated in international affairs to make global efforts with like-minded partners around the world. We basically share the vision a world free from gender-based violence. So what the Garden Hole Foundation do is to create global platforms for different gender-related causes. Like the Fourth World Conference of Women's Shelters that you mentioned, it was actually a big platform. And it was actually the first time that a social organization in Taiwan rights to help hold such a big conference, global conference. And that one convened like 1,200 participants from around the world. So among these platforms, Empowering Girls in Asia is one of the most important ones. We launched Asian Girls Campaign, an advocacy and education platform for both girls leaders and organizations that care about girls' rights around Asia. And we do like advocacy and education across the communities in Asia. And so in Asia, where most of the countries share similar values and cultures, girls are treated unfairly even before they're born. So before they're born, they may be killed because of their own gender. And in a lot of poor regions, it is uncommon for girls to be sold by their parents. And in South Asia, 4.5 million girls don't have education rights, which further limits their developing opportunities. So as a platform in Asia, the Asian Girls Campaign, we focus on empowering girls. We establish Asian Girls Award to recognize those girls who have exceptional contribution to their own communities and girls' human rights. And we give them the international stage to talk about their projects their dreams, their concepts. And also we collaborate with these organizations that empower girls. We help them, support them with small grants for the local girls empowerment programs and activities. And we also co-host these activities with them, inviting the girl leaders around Asia to do like gender empowerment and become the coach or teacher in their local communities to promote gender equality. So 10 years after we launched Asian Girls Campaign, we saw that the girls nowadays have more access to information and technology. They usually have a lot of ideas to make their communities more sustainable, but they still lack the resources or the skills to do so. So in 2023, we launched Asian Girls in Action Project. The goal is the same. We want to create a platform to empower Asian girls, but we focus more on the sustainability of community development. So what we do is to invite the girl leaders in these communities who want to make their communities a better place and more sustainable. And if their projects, the proposals are selected, then they will have the chance to get the online training resources and also 1 week in Taiwan to do their study visit. The girls can physically network together, co-create some works, discuss the solutions, and then visit the organizations in Taiwan that are related to their SDGs. So by collaborating with these organizations, we accompany the girls to complete and realize their own sustainable projects. We see the sustainability challenges across Asia. And at the same time, in the training process, we emphasize on the gender equality education and inviting these girl leaders to add the gender perspectives in their projects as well. So I would like to say that although the Garden Hope Foundation, we keep adjusting our services and projects according to the development of the world. But as long as the platform and the network exists, then the partnership will always be the foundation to support us to keep going.
Yeah.
那因为性别暴力是一个全球的议题，所以立新也一直致力于和我们的国际伙伴合作，把我们在性别平权上面的一些成功经验，去传输给我们的伙伴们。那同时，我们也创造一些对话的平台，让全球在这个议题上努力的各个角色，不管是政府或者是非营利组织或者是学者等等，他们可以互相讨论这些问题的根本在哪里。那我们可以一起互相学习，然后创造出比较好的解决方式。所以立新基金会在经营这些平台里面，其中一个最重要的就是在培力亚洲的女孩，因为亚洲女孩其实处境非常的辛苦，她们常常因为自己的性别而被歧视，或者是没有办法有跟男性或其他的人一样有这么好的发展机会。所以我们在亚洲的话，最主要就是和也一样在培力女孩组织一起合作，那共同在各个社区各个地方办理培力女孩的活动，然后邀请这些各国的女孩领袖们，可以作为当地的性别平权推动的种子。那我们也有曾经举办亚洲女儿奖，那最主要就是要表扬这一些在亚洲地区对于女孩人权有贡献的女孩，那让他们有个国际的舞台肯定他们，然后有可以对着世界去展现他们的想法的舞台。那从2023年开始，我们推出了亚洲女孩 永续实践专案，这个目标是一样的，就是要有一个亚洲培力女孩的平台，但是我们希望更注重在社区的永续发展，因为我们发现到近年来女孩其实有更多的资讯，那他们这些领袖们其实也想要让自己的社区变得更加永续，只是他们常常没有相关的资源来做这一些工作，所以我们每一年会邀请亚洲各地想要帮助自己的社区变得更永续的女孩提出他们的方案。那如果这些女孩的方案入选的话，将会有许多的培训资源，那在回去之后他们也会有一笔经费去执行他们的永续专案，所以我们就是这样子借着各种的合作去慢慢的推动在亚洲的女孩权利的发展。
Awesome. Okay, so overall it's kind of like starting from here in Taiwan, the Garden of Hope Foundation started out with a mission of wanting to help the girls that they saw that were being sold into the sex trade, and then from there realizing that it's not just about helping these girls being able to support themselves, but it's also about changing society's perceptions and changing government legislation in order to acknowledge that girls have rights just as any other human being does, because, you know, girls are human too. And also furthering this empowerment, not just empowering girls here in Taiwan, because compared to other nations, perhaps here in Taiwan, our situation could be a little bit better, but using the experiences that we have improved Taiwanese perception about empowerment and gender equality, taking that information and using examples of successes to help educate people in other countries as well, in order to help girls and women and young children in other countries that are perhaps less developed, and also giving them opportunities to come to Taiwan and see and be able to use resources in order for them to better their own communities. It's a very big mission. Very impressed.
It's a lot to do, but something that has to be done. Very
Absolutely.
important.
So one question that I wanted to ask, and this one's more anecdotal because it depends, like from your own personal experience. So you have been working with the Garden of Hope Foundation. Do you have perhaps any stories of girls in Taiwan, or perhaps girls that, you know, the Garden of Hope Foundation is also helping abroad? Are there any stories of girls that perhaps you would be willing to share with us?
Sure. So what inspired me most are always those girl leaders who, after getting the resources that we invest, are willing to give back and continue to empower other girls in the network, even the younger generation. And they're willing to pass down their experiences and wisdom to support the other girls. So one of the examples that I remember is the girl award winner in 2016. She is from Pakistan. Her name is Hadika, and in her community, she has long-term committed in combating child marriage because from her childhood she saw her best friend was forced to marry an old man and then suspend her own education. So what she did was to visit all the parents of the young girls in her own community and persuade them not to let their daughters to be sold. And she visited the police leaders and also even the religious leaders not to host weddings of the child marriages.
So instead of essentially convincing or talking to her community, engaging with her community, explaining the reason why this is not a good thing, perhaps. Because I know traditionally in many countries, like a lot of countries, they kind of hold on to, this is a tradition, this is what we must do, this is how we've always done things. But kind of being an advocate for change and improvement for everyone. So, wow, the fact that she was able to, I mean, I have trouble answering the phone and just talking to a stranger, but I can't imagine going as a young girl herself, going to talk to the parents of these young girls, and then also talking to governmental authorities and religious authorities at the same time to kind of make a stand and show that she is in the right.
Right. She was so brave. So that's why she got the award in 2016. And after she came back to her own country, last year in 2023, we saw another girl from Pakistan who submitted her proposal to the Asian Girls in Action Project. And that girl was actually recommended by Hadika. So after she came back to her home country, Hadika, she started her own organization to combat child marriage in her own community. And then the girl that she recommended was the girl volunteer who worked for her own organization. So that is the good example that I always see, that girl help girls.
Yeah. I've also seen, for example, like with the advent of like the Me Too movement, I think there is like one phrase that during all of this, one phrase that comes to mind always is that if one person has the courage to speak up and to speak out about whether it's sexual violence or whether it's, unfair situations or disproportionate rights, whenever someone has the courage to speak up about it, it encourages the people around them to also speak up about it. And once one voice is raised, many voices can be raised, and that's how we can really bring about change.
Right. Yes. That's how we see the wave of Me Too movement, how it can happen in Taiwan last year.
Yes.
那其实我们曾经接触以及合作过或帮助过这些女孩，她们的背后都有非常非常多的故事，但总是我看得到。这一些合作里面最能激励我的，就是在这一些女孩接受我们的帮助，或者是得到这些资源之后，回去她们愿意继续去在她们的社区里面影响其他的女孩。例如说，在2016年的时候，有一位我们亚洲女孩奖人权奖的得主哈迪卡，那她当时会得奖，是因为她在她的社区里面致力于就是消除童婚这一件事，那她是一个非常勇敢的女孩。而在去年我们在征案的时候，就是在征亚洲女孩永续实践专案的时候，发现了另外一个女孩也是从巴基斯坦来。那在跟她聊过之后，我们发现原来她是由哈迪卡推荐来的。那哈迪卡在2016年回去她的家乡之后，持续的在对抗童婚这一个议题。那也在成年之后就成立了他自己的组织，所以他继续推荐在他组织工作的这些女孩来到台湾，然后继续他们在帮助当地社区的工作。
Wow, that's been a really meaningful conversation, but I think now is the time to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted, and maybe something kind of brings us back to talking about English. And so let's talk about our pet peeves and cat's meows. So things that we find maybe really fun, a cat's meow, or a pet peeve, something which maybe we don't like in English, something we've heard recently. And listening to our conversation just now, I was reminded of a very common English expression. Actually, two things. One is the fact that women hold up half the sky. Mm-hmm. So in other words, women are half of the population. They hold up half the sky, so they're just as important as all the men out there.
Yes.
But also another thing, I think the point that I wanted to make was, with all the work that the Garden of Hope is doing, it reminds me of the expression, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So you do a little bit of something to prevent a problem, and that is more useful than trying to solve the problem after it has already happened. So with the efforts that you do to protect women who maybe are facing domestic violence and maybe empowering the women is doing more than trying to correct the problem later in life when we realize maybe these people are already very troubled. So that's kind of my little 2 cents for today.
All right. So
how about you, Paz?
Wait, so your first one was?
Women hold up half the sky.
And the second one was?
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Correct.
Okay.
So ounce of prevention, ounce is very small.
Yes.
And a pound is much bigger.
Right.
But to do something before the problem gets bad is actually more important than trying to fix it later.
Yes. Okay. 就是以防万一嘛。 All right, so my word for today is both a pet peeve and a cat's meow, depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
It's a pet peeve if it exists. And if there is a glass ceiling.
Okay.
So a glass ceiling is an invisible barrier that makes it harder for women to achieve higher positions of power, like get maybe like executive positions or something like that.
Become the president.
Or become the president,
Exactly.
exactly. So it's a glass ceiling. It's kind of like a barrier. It's a limitation.
Right. Well, a ceiling is what's above us in the
Exactly.
buildings, and so we just can't go above that.
Exactly. But in recent years, there have been more women who have been.
A lot of smashing going on recently.
And this is my cat's meow. When
Okay.
you break the glass ceiling. So, for example, here in Taiwan, President Tsai Ing-wen broke the glass ceiling when she became the first female president
Exactly.
in Taiwan. Kamala Harris, if she gets elected, will be breaking that glass
More
ceiling
glass
as
coming
well.
down. That's correct.
Exactly. So, glass ceiling, it's a limit. I hate it. And therefore, if we can break it, then that's a good thing.
And another important thing about that expression is the idea it's a glass ceiling. So sometimes people don't even realize it's there. It's sometimes it's almost invisible.
Right.
And it's important for us to remember that there are barriers being placed on women that we need to break now and then.
Yes, exactly. Ingrid, what about you?
I would like to say a hashtag that we use when we promote Asian Girls campaign. And
Well,
it's,
you are a young person because you're talking about
Yes.
hashtags. I like that. Okay, cool.
so I would say hashtag Girls Decide.
Yes, girls decide.
And so what does that mean?
That is the whole mission that we want to complete of Asian Girls campaign. We hope to create a world that girls can decide. They can take control of their own destiny and make choices for their own lives.
Yes, very good. I love that. Girls decide. 就是由女生来决定。
对，由女生来决定的
Yes.
世界。
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ingrid. I have learned a lot about the Garden of Hope
Thank you
Foundation.
for having me here.
Well, I think it's important, too, to see that there's people here in Taiwan doing such important work and really helping to make society a better place.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as a quick reminder, ICRT's Breakdown is a cooperation between ICRT and the National Development Council as part of the Taiwan Bilingual 2030 Policy Program. So thank you again to Ingrid Ye, and also thank you to Paz, our very diligent co-host here.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
I'm Tim Berge, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Breaking the ice, breaking the mold, breaking down the news. You've been listening to ICRT Breakdown, a bilingual 2030 policy program brought to you in association with the National Development Council.